Hi, Jillian here from the land of midnight baking. It's been a while, but we're back with the second installment of our Great British Bake Off Technical Challenge recipe review. And I am doing Mary Berry's famous Bakewell Tart recipe. So if you've seen any of the Great British Baking Show recently, or in the past, a few years, they love this Bakewell Tart. People make variations on it all the time, and decided to see what the fuss is all about. So with no further delay, here's our Bakewell Tart recipe.
So, step 1 is make the jam. Crush the raspberries in a saucepan and add the sugar. Then bring to a boil. Keep the temperature low until your sugar melts. Then crank up the heat and boil for 4 minutes. Take it off the heat, pour it into a shallow container and let it cool. I put mine in the fridge. For step 2, you'll need to make the short crust pastry. The butter should be cold, but cut it up into chunks so it's easier to work with. Normally I'd use a pastry cutter, but the recipe said to mix with your fingers, so I followed the recipe. Stir in the icing sugar, also known as powdered sugar, egg, and butter. It says stir, but I just used my hands because it was faster and more convenient. Once the dough comes together, roll it out to fit your tart pan. I messed up here because the recipe doesn't mention greasing the pan, but I'm paranoid about food sticking, so I greased it a little. Then you're supposed to chill the crust for 30 minutes before baking.
Oops, I didn't do that either. Do as I say, not as I do.
When it's ready to bake, line the crust with parchment paper and fill it with baking beads, or in my case, kidney beans. The crust will blind bake for 15 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius or 392 degrees Fahrenheit. Then take out the beans, or beads, and bake for 5 more minutes. Now it's time to make the filling. Cream your butter and sugar. This time, your butter should be room temperature and soft. Add the ground almonds, egg, and almond extract. Mix well. Okay, now for the assembly. Put a thin layer of jam in the bottom of your crust. Mine was a little liquidy still, so it probably hadn't cooled long enough. Then add the filling. Be careful to not disturb the jam layer. You want to be able to see it when you slice the tart. My tart looks overfilled because the sides collapsed, because I greased my tin, and probably also because I forgot to chill it before putting it in the oven. At this point, I tasted my filling. Full disclosure, my friend made this Bakewell Tart using the same recipe not long ago. I tasted her tart without the icing and agreed with her that it was sweet enough. In the interest of being true to the recipe, I had planned to ice my tart. But,
y'all, it's so sweet. I'm not icing it. I'm sorry. I know the icing is in the recipe, and in order to review it properly, I need to review the whole thing. But no, I can't put icing on this. If you want to put icing on it, you certainly can. It's just a simple powdered sugar icing flavored with almond extract. Knock yourself out.
Anyway, I baked my tart at 180 degrees Celsius or 356 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. I should have baked it longer, but it started leaking butter out all over my oven. So I took it out too early and let it cool before depanning, where I discovered just how severely underdone it was. It had cracked, and some of the filling had overflowed on the crust. Not my finest work. Since I didn't ice it, I decorated with a few sliced almonds and dusted it with powdered sugar to finish.
Okay, moment of truth. We're gonna try it. So notice that the layer of jam is really thin, and that's because my jam hadn't gelled all the way. And you can tell that it's underdone because it's really pale and it has a big crack in it. I also have the famed soggy bottom, so it's not totally done all the way. But we're gonna taste it anyway. It's really sweet. Really sweet. And yeah, the underdone crust is really a shame because it would be really nice if the crust were done all the way. But yeah, I can't imagine putting frosting or icing on this at all. Like, you can do that if you want to, but I have too much self-respect, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, give it a try. It's definitely worth a shot. It's Frangipan. If you've never tasted Frangipan before, go for it. So that was Mary Berry's Bakewell Tart. The recipe is super easy to follow. The ingredients you can find in your kitchen. You don't have to buy that much. If you're a beginner baker, this is a really great recipe to try, despite all the problems that I had with it. The recipe itself is actually really good, and I would recommend that you try it if you have never made a tart before. This one is really pretty when it comes out. It's really sweet though, so the one thing that I did not do is add the icing, but that was my take on the Bakewell Tart. If you want to read my full review, it is linked down below. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time on Land of Midnight Baking. Bye.